Matthew. Very nice to meet you, and thanks for accepting this interview. Maybe we can start by you introducing yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Wong. I represent my country in my sport, and the sport that I compete in is compound archery. And I've been shooting for about 6 years now, and I've represented my country for about 4 years. Yeah, and I started as a junior,
Okay,
and I've started to compete for the senior team now. Yeah.
great. And what made you interested in starting archery?
Just movies and stuff like that. Originally, I wanted to shoot guns, but it's not legal in the UK, so I ended up picking up archery as a hobby, and then it started going quite well, and I started to represent Scotland. Then made the development squad for Great Britain, shot as a junior for Great Britain, and then won a couple medals. And then I've started to compete for the senior teams and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow, nice. And what do you use a spotting scope for in your sport?
So the spotting scope is very important whenever you're shooting tournaments, since when you're at the target line, you have to have a scope, or some people use binoculars, but usually scopes are way more clear, and it helps you determine where to move your sight. And then if the wind is also in motion, or it's quite windy conditions, you can see how far you have to aim off, or some people call it bubbling, where you have your bow and then you just lean the bow a tiny bit, and then it will compensate for the amount of wind that's being pushed on your bow, essentially. Yeah. And then I think by using a spotting scope, it's so much easier to just look down, because you've only got like 3 minutes sometimes, and sometimes 4 minutes for your arrows to be shot. So it's very important to get a clear picture on where your arrows are and how to adjust.
Yeah, makes sense. And what made you choose Kowa spotting scopes?
So I've tried a lot of spotting scopes before I chose Kowa. Before, so everyone at tournaments has, all the brands are there, so everyone just looks at every single scope. And despite the picture quality being very similar amongst the top guys like Swarovski, Zeiss, and Kowa, I found that the Kowa scope was the most adjustable. Like, it was very, very easy to adjust. The system that they used was really, really smooth, and the micro adjust knob was really, really accurate. So if it ever did get bumped or anything like that, you can just like move it very, very slightly. Whereas other ones, it's usually like the big wheel around the scope, and then you have to use your whole hand to kind of shift it. Whereas the other one, you can just use your fingers to kind of adjust it. Yeah.
What kind of Kowa scope model are you using?
So right now I'm using the TSN 88, and it's the angled variant. And yeah, so it's really, really good, because despite the objective lens being 88 millimeters, it feels very, very light in comparison to a lot of scopes. So it's very good in dark conditions when I'm shooting in practice. And then I think I'm going to be using the TSN 553, the angled version, as well, when I'm going to be competing overseas or anything like that, because when we're traveling, we have to meet the weight limit. So by having a smaller scope, it's much easier to carry the scope. Whereas if you put the big scope, sometimes you might go over weight limit, and if you're carrying all of your tools, your bow, and everything like this, it gets quite heavy. Yeah.
What you already mentioned a few, but what other features make Kowa scopes great for archery?
So just when you're shooting in dark conditions, the light quality is also very, very good. So I practice in an indoor 50-meter range sometimes, so it's quite dark in there, so you can still see in really dark conditions, and it's not a problem. Whereas with some lower quality scopes, sometimes it's quite hard to see in darker conditions. So that's why the Kowa scope is so good. It's just the adjustability and the clearness of the scope, and the scopes are extremely light compared to a lot of the other brands. Whereas the Kowa scope is it's 88 millimeter, and it's just as light as some 70s. So it's just the portability and the adjustability and the quality of the glass that's really, really good.
Wow, there are many benefits. Thanks for using our scopes in any case. And what would you say have been your greatest achievements so far?
So probably winning European Championships in the team medal when I was a junior, that was probably one of my biggest achievements, and then probably coming top 5 in the world for as a junior, and then winning a couple national tournaments, like some of the big ones like UK Masters and a couple of national tour stages, and then I've also podiumed at the finals, and then podiumed at the national championships as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, that must require a lot of training. So, how long have you been training to get to this point?
So I've been shooting for around 6 years now, 6.5 years. So quite a lot of training and preparation, just going to the gym as well, and then just trying to keep my body in a good, healthy state, and then trying to practice as much as I can. Yeah.
Makes sense. And what are your goals? The next upcoming goals, let's say?
So the next upcoming goal is to shoot the selection shoot for World Champs or the World Cup stages that are coming up, and then hopefully competing at those tournaments for my country. And then I'll also be shooting all the national tournaments that are being held this year in the UK. So all the tour stages, and then the UK Masters, where I'll hopefully defend my title, and then shoot at the UK Championships as well. Yeah.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure you must have some other hobbies too. I would love to know, yeah, what are your hobbies? What are your other passions?
So I do a little bit of powerlifting in my free time, and then I also train a little bit of calisthenics, just for like keeping in good shape and stuff like that. And it's good to see progress, because like you can actually see the numbers going up if you lift heavier or whatever movement you're doing, essentially. So I find that quite fun to chase goals and then achieve them, hopefully.
All right, great. Thanks a lot for answering all our questions, and good luck with all of your competitions.
Yeah, thanks. Perfect.